Hello, you're watching our English news updates brought to you from our studio here in Hanoi, Vietnam. I'm Dai Chang with the latest news headlines. Vietnam interested in developing relations with Armenia, confirmed by new Vietnamese ambassador to the country. Import tax reductions affect the state budget collections, so what can the government do to compensate for future deficits? And Hue Central Hospital successfully cured a patient with a cerebellar tumor using advanced stereotactic radiosurgery. Now, top news for this bulletin. Newly appointed Vietnamese ambassador to Armenia, residency Moscow, Nguyễn Thanh Sơn, handed over his credentials to President of Armenia, Serge Sargsyan. At the meeting, Ambassador Nguyễn Thanh Sơn delivered State President Trương Tấn Sang's greetings to the Armenian president and people. He emphasized that the Vietnamese people always remember Armenia's valuable support for Vietnam throughout its struggle for liberation and national development. President Sargsyan highly appreciated the achievements Vietnam has made during its innovation process and the active role Vietnam plays in international forums. He also mentioned his 2012 visit to Vietnam as a motivation for the two countries to promote bilateral relations, especially in trade and economic relations, educational and scientific exchanges, as well as the establishment of interparliamentary ties and cooperation within international organizations. The interlocutors also stressed that the FTA, or Free Trade Agreement, between Vietnam and the Eurasian Economic Union, of which Armenia is a member, will further relations between the two countries. The Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TPP, trade talks concluded on Monday after more than 5 years of intensive negotiations. We'll take a look at the opinions of the experts that support Vietnam's 11th Free Trade Agreement.
If the TPP agreement comes into effect, the US, Japan and Canada will offer zero import tax, which will push Vietnam's export activities, especially in key export sectors such as textiles, footwear and seafood. The agreement is forecast to increase Vietnam's gross domestic product by $33.5 billion in 2025. By that time, Vietnamese export turnover will increase by $68 billion.
Before the TPP talks, Vietnamese companies had already prepared for themselves a management mechanism, which includes social policy, environmental policies, security, intellectual property, and quality control. Based on that, companies are completing the mechanism to prepare for the TPP implementation.
TPP includes commitments to protect labor rights and to improve business environment towards an open, fair and friendly trade integration amongst participating countries. The TPP will also bring to Vietnam with more opportunities to diversify its trade partners and to contribute to the global supply chain.
You need to understand what is in the TPP, and then you have to work to meet the requirements in the TPP. It can't be done alone. It has to be done together with partners, your customers, your importers, your participants in the global supply chains.
As forecast, the livestock sector and particularly the dairy sector of several countries will be particularly affected by the agreement. However, legal procedures will take 1.5 to 2 years. Therefore, the Vietnamese livestock sector still has an opportunity if it can accelerate the restructuring process effectively.
So far, the livestock sector hasn't built strong brand names either domestically and internationally. Also, enterprises in the sector lack significant experience for such the agreement. So the challenges and obstacles are very big.
Despite all challenges, according to calculations by independent experts, If the advantages are fully exploited and negative impacts are restricted, the TPP agreement will help total domestic product of Vietnam increase by 2% in a short period.
With the conclusion to negotiations of the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, or TPP, Vietnam has so far joined 11 free trade agreements, or FTAs. One of the most remarkable effects of these FTAs is the reduction of almost every import tax. How will tax reductions affect collections for the state budget, and what can the government do to compensate for future deficits? The following report will tell us more.
For the first 9 months of 2014, tax from vehicles imported into Vietnam reached over $946.6 million, accounting for 41.7% of imported tax revenue. From 2018, tax on car imports from ASEAN countries will drop to 0% with the ASEAN Free Trade Agreement. Following other upcoming trade agreements, including the TPP, imports from Japan, South Korea, the EU, and US will also be tax exempt. So far, there have been no statistics estimating the impact of import-export tax reductions on state budget revenues. However, the Ministry of Finance has revealed that the proportions of import tax has decreased in the last few years.
In the age of globalization, revenue from import-export taxes will decrease. Therefore, revenue from domestic sources must be increased. For the last 5 years, the rate of tax revenue from domestic sources has increased from 58% to 70% and is planned to reach 80% by 2020.
At recent seminars on the effects of FTAs on Vietnam's economy, experts said that reductions in import taxes are not necessarily cause for worry, as every trade agreement brings both challenges and opportunities.
Despite a fall in tax revenue, new markets are open for Vietnamese products, and enterprises will have the chance to expand production and business in general. They will contribute to the state budget through income taxes.
The upcoming trade agreements are expected to open markets for Vietnamese agriculture and seafood produce, as well as garments and textiles. Vietnamese businesses must start enhancing their capacity to meet high technical standards and localization rates as specified in the agreements.
Still in economic news, Vietnam, along with the Philippines, is said to have the most promising conditions for economic growth in the ASEAN region, according to the World Bank's latest report. The economy is said to be boosted by two driving forces, exports and domestic consumption. The worldwide decrease in fuel prices is benefiting the country, while the government's efforts to reduce its debt are improving the fiscal deficit. Despite the forecast trade deficit, strong remittances inflows should ensure the balance of a payment surplus. The World Bank also suggests Vietnam quickly revise its regulations in order to attract more foreign investors. This analysis was announced in the bank's 2015 East Asia Pacific Economic Update released on October 5th. A trade promotion forum between Vietnam and Kazakhstan took place on Tuesday in Hanoi. At the forum, representatives from the Kazakh embassy in Vietnam said Kazakhstan had improved its investment climate through improved infrastructure and favorable policies and was keen to entice foreign capital, including from Vietnam. More to follow.
Kazakhstan could be considered as an ideal investment destination for Vietnam in terms of industry and energy. The country has been attracting foreign investment through preferential policies and tax breaks. Kazakh firms are keen to cooperate with Vietnam to produce garments, electronics, and consumer goods to export to Eurasian Union countries.
Kazakhstan remains largely unknown to Vietnamese firms. That's why we want to introduce the Vietnamese business community to our industrial and tourism sectors. Hopefully, it will promote ties on such fields between the two countries.
The forum was attended by a great number of Vietnamese firms in various fields, including construction materials, agriculture, textiles, finance and banking, and tourism.
The new capital of Astana has buildings which have once made of thermino-treated clay. We hope that it will provide us with potential investment opportunities at such trade promotion fairs like this.
Through the conference today, we see Kazakhstan as an open market. The country has high demand for high-tech agricultural products. We are interested in focusing on that sector to invest in Kazakhstan. A meeting of the Vietnam-Kazakhstan Intergovernmental Committee on Economic Cooperation and Science and Technology will take place on October 22nd and 23rd in Astana. It is hoped to open up new prospects for cooperation between the two countries.
The Vietnam General Confederation of Labour has just presented to the government their 2016 minimum wage raise proposal of 14.4%, 2% higher than the raise proposed by the National Wage Council. The Vietnam General Confederation of Labour said the 14.4% raise is part of a roadmap to 2017 for a standard wage sufficient to cover minimum living expenses and as preparation for the plan to pay social insurance based on total income in 2018. However, following the Confederation's proposal, representatives from the Korean Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Vietnam asked that the Prime Minister accept the 12.4% wage increase as previously proposed by the National Wage Council. The Korean Chamber of Commerce and Industry reasoned that with businesses paying workers at a higher minimum wage as well as social insurance in 2016, the total increase will exceed 20%, negatively affecting a number of enterprises. Meanwhile, many Vietnamese businesses associations are also requesting another look at the minimum wage hike. The Prime Minister has issued a directive instructing localities to further implement agricultural restructuring. The program aims to increase added value for agricultural products and to develop the sector towards sustainable development. To do this, farmers, cooperatives, and enterprises are being asked to renovate their manufacturing operations and production supply chains, in which enterprises play the central role. Scientific research and technological exchange between research institutes and businesses should be encouraged, and market research, surveys, as well as Vietnam's international trade commitments should be addressed. As part of the program, local intersectoral steering committees will be established to better control the agricultural restructuring process. The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development also organized a press conference on the results of the first 9 months of this year, September's figures and tasks for October. The sector recorded a record 3-year low. Experts also discussed the conclusion of the Trans-Pacific Partnership talks on the sector.
According to the ministry statistics, due to foreign exchange fluctuations, export turnover for agricultural products for the first 9 months witnessed a drop of 7.2% compared to the same period last year. Remarkably, the figure of the fisheries sector alone fell nearly 18%. In addition to that, hygiene and food safety condition in the period also added to the difficulties.
We found new contraband substance that has been used. According to research and experiments on animals, this kind of substance will leave residues and it is carcinogenic.
In terms of the conclusion of TPP talks, experts said that the restructuring would be vital if the sector was going to be competitive enough. Livestock will be the first sector to undergo deep-rooted reform.
There is a solid belief that Vietnamese consumers prefer domestic livestock products thanks to their freshness. Not to mention the consumer habits that domestic companies are well aware of. If the sector steps up quality control in production, it will be able to maintain our competitiveness. The TPP will bring both opportunities and challenges. The agreement is considered a good test for Vietnam's agricultural restructuring, which involves participation of farmers, businesses, and government management agencies.
The ministry set an export turnover target for the agriculture, forestry and fisheries of $30 billion. The ministry will continue price and quality audits and controls while focusing on hygiene and food safety.
In the last few years, Quảng Ngai's Central Province economy has increasingly shifted towards industry and services, with a decline in the number of people employed in agricultural sectors. Quảng Ngai is seen as a key economic hub in the central region and is tipped to become a major industrial center in the future. More to follow.
After 5 years of operation, the Dung Quất oil refinery has played a vital role in helping Quảng Ngãi province to achieve rapid economic growth. It has contributed $31 billion to the total revenue and $5.3 billion to the national budget. Additionally, the refinery has also attracted many other industrial projects to the province.
Thanks to the establishment of Dung Quất oil refinery, Quảng Ngãi was listed as one of Vietnam's top 5 provinces, contributing to the national budget. Heavy industry plays an important role in Quảng Ngai's economic development.
I think our prospects are excellent, and I base that on a couple of reasons. First, we are the only domestic company that can manufacture much of high-tech equipment that will be needed for major infrastructure projects like thermal and nuclear power plants, sea-to-shore cranes, chemical processing equipment.
Quảng Ngãi has attracted 300 investment projects worth more than $6.4 billion and 36 FDI projects. With progress in industrial development, Quảng Ngai's economic structure has shifted towards industry and services and reduced the weight of agriculture in the local economy.
Quảng Ngãi needs to move on with planning, housing clearance, and human resources training in order to accelerate investment. We should facilitate investment projects for both domestic and foreign investors.
In the coming years, Quảng Ngãi will continue to promote investment in sectors prioritized in its master plan. With attractive investment policies, Quảng Ngãi is seen as an ideal destination for domestic and foreign investors, and the province is targeting becoming an industrial province by 2025.
Up next, let's check out the foreign exchange rates between Vietnamese dong and some foreign currencies in today's trading. Coming up next on VTV News, Hui's Central Hospital successfully cured a patient with a cerebellar tumor using advanced stereotactic radiosurgery. And we follow a local resident who has spent her whole life preserving Ariya traditional dancing of true ethnic people. Stay with us for the stories and more. You're watching VTV News. Since the start of this month, the central city of Thừa Thiên Huế has disbursed over $1 million from its budget to build flood-resistant houses for local people. Accordingly, about 1,470 poor households will be provided with these houses. 7 localities will be included in the project, most of them with a large number of rural households below the poverty line. The community-based project provides houses with an area of at least 10 meters or square meters that can resist heavy rains and flooding. Thừa Thiên Huế Central Province is now home to over 3,500 poor households in need of flood-resistant homes. So far, over 2,200 households have been given financial support to build such houses, with a total amount of reaching $1.5 million. Now some good news for residents in the remote areas of Quang Binh province. The Provincial Department of Transportation has announced that a project to build 10 suspension bridges is nearly complete and should be finished before the rainy season. Currently, 8 suspension bridges have been opened to the public. The final 2 Thuận Hóa and Rong bridges are being constructed with the financial support of Vietnam Airlines and the Trường Thị Corporation. Following the project, the province plans to build 5 more bridges, 2 concrete bridges and 3 suspension bridges. Da Nang will be the first locality in Vietnam to end analog or terrestrial broadcasting and switch to digital television as part of the government's project on TV digitization. The project will start on November the 1st. From 25th of September, Da Nang's authorities have successfully installed over 1,000 digital TV receivers for households under the government's assistance plan. The number of channels has increased to over 30 different channels with better image quality. In other news, a team of doctors and technicians at the Cancer Center of Hue Central Hospital has successfully cured a patient suffering from a cerebellar tumor using advanced stereotactic radiosurgery. The case offers a new hope for patients with cancer. And more in the following report.
Trương Thị Hoài Giang, a 38-year-old patient in Đắk Rông district, Quảng Trị province, was diagnosed with a cerebellar tumor. The illness hadn't shown any signs of remission after 3 years of treatment. The tumor's location made surgery or radiation therapy impossible, so Giang was transferred to the Hue Central Hospital for SRS treatment. Here, radiosurgery was performed using the Electra Accesses, the most advanced radiation therapy system in Vietnam.
Before the treatment, I suffered so much from migraines that I couldn't talk or even eat. Now my health has recovered 80%.
According to doctors, Giang's malignant tumor can lead to death if treated too late. However, with the help of new medical technology, she has been able to get back to her normal life.
Before, the patient was only cured of the symptoms, not the disease itself. Radiosurgery was able to reduce the tumor's size, then gradually free the head from pressure caused by tumor. It was a success.
Prior to the treatment, the center consulted professors of the Curie Institute in France. This was an important step to ensure the operation's success.
With the outstanding features of this new technology, it is an effective method for cancer patients who cannot undergo normal surgery.
By conducting the first successful stereotactic radiosurgery on a patient with a cerebellar tumor, the Hue Central Hospital has established itself as one of the leading cancer treatment hospitals in the country.
Now, embassies of all 10 member countries of this Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, celebrated their 48th ASEAN Day at the Pushkin Museum in Moscow on October 6th. ASEAN Day is held annually with the view of strengthening the bloc's solidarity and increasing international friends' understanding of ASEAN. At the event, cuisine and art performances representing the 10 ASEAN member countries were organized. ASEAN ambassadors affirmed the bloc's major role in building and developing a peaceful and stable Southeast Asia region. They also spoke highly of the Russia-ASEAN cooperation, hoping relations would continue to grow in the future, especially as the 20th Russia-ASEAN Commemorative Summit will be held in Russia in 2016. A 2-day event on preserving intangible cultural heritage in Southeast Asia opened in Hanoi on Tuesday, bringing together representatives from throughout the region. At the event, experts agreed that adapting and renovating without losing core heritage values was the best method to preserve and pass on heritage to future generations. Experts also shared and archived materials and experience exchanging program for ASEAN countries. The event seeks to increase regional cooperation in protecting intangible cultural heritages, its development, and increasingly modern lifestyle threaten traditional cultural expressions. The true ethnic community in the Central Highland province of Lâm Đồng is famous for its Arya dance. However, with the development of modern society, the dance has become less and less popular. And in the following report, we'll follow a local resident who has spent her whole life preserving this traditional art.
The gong was once an indispensable part of Churu daily life, appearing at every community event. But now, few people continue to play it. For Mabio, however, this instrument will never be lost.
Playing the gong is a practice that has been passed down from our ancestors, so we must preserve it.
With this as her mission, Mabio organizes special classes at home to spread her passion for the Arya dance to the youth of the village. Started in 2008, the class has drawn the participation of over 70 young people and children. Tone Paul, a student in the class, is now able to perform not only in the village, but in other places as well.
We would not have been able to play this instrument without our teacher.
I love our people's traditional culture. I will continue to preserve this art and pass on my inspiration to the next generation. I will tell them this dance has been recognized as a national heritage, so we must not forget it.
With strong-willed local residents like Mabio, hopefully the Churu community can continue their valuable traditions through generations.
And as always, just before we say goodbye, let's take a look at our updated weather forecast. And that's the end of our program. Thank you very much for being here with us. Remember, all of our programs and repeats are always online at vtv4.vn or youtube.com/vtv4go. Once again, thank you very much for being here with us, and goodbye for now.